Man, it's Reek Ball Hawk Sports. Let's get into the state of college football, man, and what's going on, and the recent topics that we can really talk about and really dive into. The first thing, man, is Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss, going to LSU. It was kind of expected for him to leave because Florida was the first team that made it clear that they wanted Lane Kiffin after firing Billy Napier, and then LSU made it very clear, as well after they fired Brian Kelly. But you was just wondering where was Lane going to go. Ole Miss was so good that they were better than both LSU and Florida for the last 2-3 seasons. So it kind of makes sense for Lane to say, well, man, I might just stay. But then when you look at the resources that a LSU and the Florida have, you're like, man, it'll be hard for Lane to turn those jobs down. But now, man, December 1st, as of December 1st, or really as of yesterday, November 30th, Lane is now the head coach of LSU, and he's LSU now, no more Ole Miss. So, my only thing is how do y'all feel about this one with Lane? Lane is he's left multiple teams or has gotten fired from multiple teams in funny ways or ways that aren't traditional. So, do you think that this is something that will backfire for Lane, or is this something that will help it or boost his career into, trying to become one of those all-time great coaches? Will Lane finally win a natty at LSU because he has the resources? He's been putting the teams together at Ole Miss, but now that he has, basically what they said, 25 million to start off in NIL to use to get players in. How well will Lane be, or how good will LSU be under Lane Kiffin? It's a lot of question marks. The one big question mark that I have is Trinidad Chambliss, the quarterback who went from D2 up to D1, who is now Lane Kiffin's guy, the guy that just like Jackson Dart was, Lane Kiffin is molding them. Um, does he? What if he says he wants to play at Ole Miss to finish the playoff because he doesn't coming from a D2, understanding that all D2 players don't get these type of chances. What if he says that he wants to play in the playoff and he may not be looking to go to LSU, which I think that that might not happen because Lane is his coach, but I don't think that we could, you know, try to undermine or underrate the impact that playing in the playoff and playing for a natty has for a lot of these guys. Because yeah, man, I'm going to a new school, a school that I can maybe get back to a national championship or back to a playoff, but it's not guaranteed when you're actually guaranteed in the playoffs this season. So I'm just very interested to see how it goes with Trinidad Chambliss and also Austin Simmons, because does Simmons transfer to LSU, or does he try to go to another school, or does he try to just stay at Ole Miss because he was supposed to be Lane Kiffin's product as well. He was the guy who stepped in and played good for Dart last year and was supposed to be the starter this year before Chambliss came out and balled after Simmons got hurt with that concussion. So I'm just, very interested to see all the things that take place with Lane now leaving and going to LSU and officially being the head coach of LSU. I'm just excited to see what all will transpire from December and January, because that's when all this will really end, is in January, because that's when the college football season is. So I'm just very excited to see, and I'm just very excited to see what Lane does specifically and how he bounces back from all the talk and how everybody's talking about him. But man, let's get into that SEC championship, a place that Ole Miss could not get to this year because they lost to Georgia. The SEC championship, man, we got my team Bama versus Georgia again for the second matchup in about thousands matchup over the last 10, 15 years. Um, how we feeling, Bama fans? How we feeling this year? How we feeling about this SEC title against Georgia? I think the last SEC title that we were in against Georgia was in 2023, which was 2 years ago, which is when Milroe and Bama upsetted Carson Beck in that Georgia squad that was supposed to win a natty. Yeah, man, how we feeling this year? I think that as a Bama fan, I'm confident. I think I'm confident because every time that Georgia sees Bama, they get a little scared anyway. But then also I'm confident because the team is confident. I'm confident because the team, I believe. So I believe that Bama will be all right. I feel like Bama will get the job done. I feel like against Georgia, they get up for that game. They're ready for that game, and they're going to beat Georgia. And I think that they'll beat them pretty convincingly, and they'll be walking into the playoff as a top 4 seed because they will be the ACC champions. So shout out Bama, even shout out Georgia. I'm just very excited to see a good football game coming this Saturday from the best conference in football, or the best conference in college football by far. Um, you know, Big Ten championship. Now I'm very excited for the Big Ten championship as well, because you got two good coaches, two great coaches, but then you also got two fiery teams. Kurt Signetti, who's trying to get it all. He wants it all from the Big Ten. He wants to show that coming from that group of five, coming from JMU, that he is one of the best coaches in the nation by far, and that he can lead this Indiana team to the playoffs in a deeper run in the playoffs, because they did make it last year. So I'm very excited to see this game, man. I'm very excited to see how Ohio State, being the Goliath and being, the Goliath in this situation, I'm excited to see how they, how they take every punch from Indiana and just keep going. Do they just roll with the punches or do they fold? I don't know if they fold, but I know Indiana will give them a lot of good shots in this game because Kurt Signetti, he gets up for big games, and I know this is one of those games that he will be up for and he will get up for. So shout out Big Ten, man. Shout out Big Ten championship. I'm very excited to see what's gonna happen. Is Ohio State gonna show us that they really those guys, or will Indiana show us that they're really those guys? So we'll see. We'll find out coming this Saturday. And Florida pivoted from Lane Kiffin when Lane didn't make the decision by their deadline, and they hired John Summerall, who is the head coach currently, or former head coach now of Tulane. And he, Tulane allowed him to coach the team throughout the rest of the season or regular season and playoffs if they make it before he goes to Florida. Florida fans, how do you feel about this? Do you think that this is a good move? Do you think that it's a good decision to go from one group of five guy and Billy Napier to another group of five guy? Or do would you guys have wanted someone more experienced, especially more experienced in the SEC? So, Florida Gators fans, man, let me know how you feel. I feel like you don't move off of a group of five guy and blame him coming from the group of five as a part of the reason that he wasn't ready and then go hire another group of five guy. I felt like the hire from Florida should have been a guy who's more experienced, who's, knows a little bit more about the SEC. So that's not me trying to diss John Summerall. I think that he could be good. I think he could maybe even be great. But I just think that, with the experience that he does have now, it just doesn't equate to what Florida was looking for if they said that Billy Napier didn't have it. So we'll see, man. We'll just, really be interested to see what Florida looks like this upcoming year with their new coach who is coming from the group of five, again, just like Billy Napier did. Auburn hires Alex Golesh. Now, with my team, with Bama just beating Auburn in the Iron Bowl on Saturday night, I'm very excited for Auburn. I like Alex Golesh. I love him as an OC at Tennessee and as a head coach at UCF. He may be bringing the quarterback Byron Brown with him, so I'm sure we're going to see players like a Deuce Knight or even the other quarterback in Jackson Arnold transfer out because I'm sure Alex Golesh will be coming in with a Louis bag luggage, to come in and play for Auburn. And I think that he's going to ride with his guys who's been playing for him, and it will be very hard for him to not move on or not go forward with Byron Brown, who's shown to be a good quarterback and who's even been good against other Power 5 teams. So he'll just be able to display all his talents against the best of the best week in and week out. So shout out Alex Golesh, man. It's a big, great accomplishment and great job for him. And shout out Auburn. That's a good hire. A good hire. Even though I hate Auburn, it's a good hire. Got no problem with that. Next though, man, last topic. Who's gonna win the Heisman this year? You got Fernando Mendoza, you got Julian Sayin, you got Diego Pavia. Me personally, man, I got to go with Diego Pavia. I feel like Mendoza and Sayin could be two better pro prospects than what Pavia is. But in terms of what Pavia has done and what he means to Vandy and even college football at this point in general, I got to go with Pavia. I wasn't the biggest fan of Pavia after how arrogant he was, and how arrogant he was coming into the game against Bama. But at the end of the day, man, he's confident in himself because he puts the work in and he goes out there and he does it week in and week out. So, yeah, I like Pavia for Heisman. And I got no problem with that. I got no regrets on that statement. I like Pavia for Heisman because I think that he plays with that killer instinct, that mentality, and that flair that you want. And I think Vanderbilt sneaks into the playoff because they're 10-2 SEC and they have a very good strength of schedule. So shout out Vandy and shout out Pavia. I think Pavia is the Heisman this year. So man, that's it. Ball Hall Sports, college football, man.